All right, we're going to go ahead and talk about some motivation. We're going to talk about some meditation, and we're going to talk about some inspiration. Now, if it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And so, how do we start getting into that kind of a mentality? How do we start asking ourselves the types of questions? How do we start getting down to the place where we utilize the person that we are inside? And how do we start to get to that place where we're truly focusing to overcome our challenges? Now, a lot of people are facing off against challenges today. We're facing off against the things that we want to overcome, the mentalities that we have inside of ourselves. And it's almost like a lot of people look outwards. They look for somebody else to do it. They look for somebody else to achieve it for them instead of looking inside of themselves, instead of truly looking at who they are. And so a lot of times we want to follow some kind of a structure. We want something else to do the work for us. We want somebody else to do it. And at a certain point, you start to sit down with yourself and you start to ask yourself that type of a question. How do I start to become a doer? How do I start to put myself in a place where I start to focus, where I truly start to utilize my gifts, my talents, my mentality? And it's inside of that place, that centering inside of your being, where you start to realize what is really you. You start to realize what you want to achieve. Are these the types of things that you want to overcome? Are they bringing you closer to yourself? And how do we start to do that? Um, and if you might be out there, you might be wondering, what is this guy talking about? What is this guy sharing? What is it that, what is it so different, that guy has? And, I have nothing different than you. Like, each of us have gifts. Each of us have talents. It's just when we focus, it's when we put ourselves in a place where we start asking the questions, we start getting up. And, I used to see people inside the sauna with me, and they were like amazed how I could bypass time and how the challenges that I was going through, it didn't affect it. It didn't have the ability. And, I would be inside there for time, and I wouldn't be leaving until I felt like I was at peace inside, until I'd bypassed the time where I'd started to make sure that when you give yourself the ability inside of you, you can do it. You see, a lot of people stop themselves because they're not able to be who they are. And so, how do we start to not allow what other people see of you, what other people think of you, what other people do affect your mentality? How do you start to get to that part inside of your being where your vibration starts to happen? And I would like to share some stories about this. I like to stimulate your mind. I like to plead a case with yourself that you're worthy of it, that you sitting down and studying is worth it, that what you go through and the things that you're facing off against today, you can overcome. And it's not when other people say it that it will happen. That's one of the greatest things. See, the benefit of believing in yourself, believing in your ability, is that you are doing it. That you are sitting in front of the challenges that you're facing off against the people that might not see on the same level as you. And so when you start to achieve those types of things, when you start to be that kind of focused to that kind of a level, where your mentality starts to open up, where the person that you are inside starts to show. You see, I always grew up that, you're expecting things. Okay? Until I sat flat on my face, until I was put in a place where I recognized that, when you are brought to the ground, you got to pick yourself up. You got to put yourself on a place inside where you start to open up to your mind, where you start to open up to your being, where your vibration starts to happen. And it's almost like being patient with yourself shows observation. Okay, so when you focus to the point where what you want to achieve sits in front of you, then you can see it. Once you can see it, then you can work at it. Once you work at it, then you can achieve it. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that, I might have not done the best in school. I might have not done the best in those places because I was focused into other areas. But what if those were times when growth was happening? What if the challenges that we're facing off against today are actually helping us to become closer to our mentality? They're actually helping us to become closer to ourselves. And so this is where focus starts to become a foundation. Starts to become a foundation when you're not allowing the things that are happening around you to affect your being, not allowing them to affect your mentality, to affect your vibration. And what is it that you vibrate? What is it that you put your being into? How do you start to put your focus in such a way that you become that kind of foundation, where you start having that kind of floor? What kind of floor do you walk on? What kind of place do you go? What kind of things do you do? Where do you go? What type of thoughts do you think? And so when I'm sitting here and I'm recognizing this, and I see often people asking that type of a question. They're asking, how do you do it? How do you get to the place inside of yourself where you utilize your mentality? You see a lot of these motivational speakers, you see their yields, you see their wealth, you see their ability, but do you see the challenges that they faced off to get there? And so if you're going through a challenging time, and you might be in your profession or in your companionship or in your home, see, what you focus into starts to happen. It starts to vibrate. What you put your energy into, you get to invest in. And are you investing your energy? Are you investing the part of yourself? Are you in a place where you're worthy of your study, that you're worthy of your being, that what you're facing off against today, you have the ability to overcome? And, what ways can you? What ways can you put yourself through it? What way can you focus to that point? How, where, when? So how do we ask those type of questions? How do we start to put ourselves centered in our mentality? How do we start to have an able ability to focus on the challenges that we have? How do we start to find the ways even when we don't know if there is a way? Okay, so I want you to ask yourself that type of question today. I want you to ask yourself, is what I'm doing today, is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? If it's not one of the three, what is it? And so that's the way in which I strived. That's the way in which I overcame my challenges. That's the way in which I wanted to share. That's the way in which I wanted to help other people. I wanted them to recognize. I wanted them to recognize that in their professions, they can improve. In their homes, they can improve. In their abilities to be themselves. That, I would like to believe that everything that I've learned, that I could share it with you, that, it might help you possibly if you're going through a dark time right now, that you might find a way through it. That you might find the ability inside of yourself to just try, to just focus a little bit, to start to give yourself a little bit of time each day, to start to give yourself a place inside of who you are, inside of your being, inside of the challenges that you might be facing off against today. To hear this message, that it might just uplift you, that it might just bring you closer to yourself, that if you would just simply start to use the tools and the gifts that you have around you, that your mentality might start to open up, that your ability inside of yourself might be possible. And you see, we each have that type of challenge. We have that kind of a place. We have that kind of vibration where it starts to ask us if it's even possible. You see, every word is just a word until you find the knowledge behind the word. When you find the knowledge behind the word, it becomes value. What is the value of your mentality? How do you focus to that point? Are you using the gifts and the talents that you have? Are you using the mentality inside of yourselves to be who you are? And so, what I'd like to share with you all today is how to get there, okay? How to put yourself in a place where you have that ability to overcome those kinds of challenges. And it's as simple as focusing to use what you have inside. It's focusing to the ability to use your mentality to overcome your challenges. And you see, when your challenges that you're facing off on the outside aren't greater than you are on the inside, then you have the ability to overcome them. You have the ability to be who you are on the inside, to focus to that point. And so, are we doing that? Are we truly putting ourselves in that kind of a place? Are we picking up pens and paper? Are we putting ourselves in a place where our mentality starts to open up, where our ability inside of ourselves starts to become? And so, how are you accessing the universal knowledge? How are you putting yourself in a place where your challenges start to become overcome because of who you are? And I'm grateful for what I've gone through. I mean, I want to share with you what it would feel like if you had to go through challenges that nobody else wanted to face off against, which you have. You've had challenges that only you could face off against. Are you worthy of sitting down and studying yourself? Are you worthy of putting yourself in a place where you can believe in who you are? And so the gift of understanding oneself comes from focus, my friends. What is it that you're focused into? Are you utilizing the understanding that you have inside? And so focus in knowledge. Okay, so focus on what you know. Focus on your ability inside of yourself. Focus on your ability to use your being, your purpose, your path, your journey. And you see, some of us we limit ourselves before it even starts. We limit ourselves before there even give ourselves the chance. Just show up for you. As simple as that. Show up to your classes, to your day, to your life, to your being. And it all starts with how you start your day. It starts with the mentality that you use. You know, one of the ways that I focus is by sitting down and using breath work, by putting yourself in a place where you focus and you become present within your being. You become present within your ability. You become present within your focus. And so, are we doing that daily? Are we truly getting to that place inside of ourselves where it takes you? And one of those gifts that a lot of people neglect is to use the skills that they already have, the ones that they use in school, the ones that they focus into and that use the knowledge that they have. Why? Why do you not use your knowledge, the questions, the skills that they've been put in front of us? And so I started to notice that. I started to notice that if I put a pen and paper in front of myself, that I would write, that what I wrote wasn't always going to be easy. Was it going to be worth it? And then the question I asked is, how do I start to use this? How do I turn this positive? How do I put myself in this kind of a place where I utilize what I have inside? And so, are we there within ourselves? Are we able to utilize the ability inside of who we are? Are we able to understand the being, the challenge, the ability inside of ourselves to use that kind of energy? And you see, a lot of people started to seek that. They were asking me, how is it possible? But you see, we each have gifts. Okay? When you put your ability to focus to the point where you become the best at the things that you choose, the best at the things that you face off against, the best at the ability inside of yourself, that's when the universe has the ability to use what you have. And so, how are we doing that today? How are we using the challenges that we're facing off against and not letting it be about somebody else? How are we putting ourselves in a place where we're seeing the circles of karma, we're seeing the challenges, we're understanding that part of who we are is to be who we are on the inside, is to be who we are inside of our purpose, to be who we are inside of our paths, inside of our journeys. And so, are we focusing at that level? Are we vibrating in such a way that the universe can utilize you as a yield, utilize you as a wealth, utilize your ability and bring the things that are meant for you to overcome? And so, are we doing that? Are we putting ourselves in that kind of a place where we focus to that point where we utilize the abilities inside of ourselves and we start to overcome our own challenges? And so, see, I realize that a lot of the things that you might be facing off against are generational. Okay, the challenges that we face off against, the molding, the structure that we are, the very clay that we have inside of ourselves comes to teach. It comes to become. It comes to learn. It literally becomes molded by your mentality. So have you asked yourself the question, are you enabling that? Are you putting yourself in a place where you sit down and, let's have this sit down session together. Let's go ahead and start recognizing that, we might not have done perfect things in our lives, that truly being who you are inside is absolutely facing off against challenges. But do you ask yourself the question, how have you embraced your challenges? How have you put yourself on a page where you have the ability inside of who you are? And it's when we do it. It's when we truly create that kind of foundation that our gifts and our talents start to overcome. And it's almost in a sense where we focus to the point where we overcome challenge within ourselves. It's when we teach other people to focus to that point where they see you as a motivation. Okay? I'm talking about other people becoming uplifted by your level of focus. And you see, if you want that higher position, if you want that purpose, if you want that skill inside of yourself, inside of your being, are you putting yourself in a place where you give yourself the ability to have it? Are you putting yourself in a place where you're manifesting a reflection outwards of your being? And so that is how blessings come. That is how the ability inside of oneself starts to become. That is how we focus to the point where we believe in who we are, where we believe in our skills, we believe in our mentality. See, when people start to seek out that focus inside, when they come to ask me, when they say, Marcel, can you teach me meditation? Realistically, they're seeking out themselves, they're seeking out their focus, they're seeking out how to overcome their own challenges within themselves. Because when you do that, the universe brings things your way. It brings gifts your way. It brings challenges. It gives you the ability to overcome those challenges. And that is when positivity starts to become a purpose. You get to see positive things happen around you. You get to see positive things happen inside you. And so when you hear this message, when you hear this focus, when you hear this grind, when you see on Motivation, Meditation, Inspiration.yoga, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, subscribe, listen to the messages. Ask yourself the question, is what he's truly talking about? If I try it in my own life, will it work? And then leave a comment. Say, I'm interested. Put a comment in there. Put a comment on the YouTube, 0MLP2000 at Gmail. Put a comment there. Let me recognize. Let's work through these things. Let's turn them positive. We live in a positive world, my friends. All this energy can be turned positive in your mind if you'll do so. But why do people not see that part? Why are they not allowing that part inside of themselves? Why do they not get to the part inside of who they are where they start to ask themselves the question, why am I here? What am I doing today that is bringing me closer to a positive future, positive purpose? What am I doing today to be present and to create such a beautiful world? And so, are we focusing at that level? Are we putting ourselves to the test? Are we becoming so focused that the things that are not meant for us have the ability to move out of the way on their own? For each action, there's an equal and opposite, isn't there? So what are the actions that you're taking? What are the places? What are the things that you do? Isn't it interesting when you make a choice that's called an action? Because there's also an opposite one. And so what are the actions that you take on a daily basis to be yourself? What is the things that you ask within yourself? What is the things that you focus to overcome? How do you utilize your mentality? Are you enabling yourself or are you disabling your being? And so, are we doing that on a daily? I recognize as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to these videos and I'm in a place and I'm by myself that, man, I grind on this. Man, I focus to that point. I sit down and that is where I recognize that growth lays. It doesn't lay when you see all the achievements. It lays when you're in the darkness picking yourself up. And are you doing that today? And I asked myself that question when everything fell apart on me, when I was sleeping in my van. I asked myself, can I do this? Can I put myself in a place where I can be alive, where I can truly be who I am on the inside, where I can manifest from in my own vibration, that the mentality can vibrate outwards? And then I came to Arizona. I got to the city of Prescott. I started working with people. I started recognizing that maybe challenges are just a little bit greater than my own. That what other people were facing off against might just be a little bit greater than what I might. You know, what do you say to a person who has stage 4 metastasized cancer? Or what do you say to somebody who is facing off against things that are out of their control? And this is what I started to realize. I started to realize that the structure teaches that there's such things as good and bad. And that a friend of mine that was dying of stage 4 cancer, stage 4 metastasized cancer, her poor soul had been destroyed. It had been put through so much torture that she didn't know if she could make it through it, that she couldn't become liberated. And it was within that she freed herself. It was within that she spent the time. It was within that they studied. It was within that the being became a vibration. And it vibrated past the point of the being. It progressed past this thing. And so I want you to see your story like that. I want you to see that you are a blessing on the face of the planet. That the challenges that we're facing off against today, we can overcome. I want you to see that you're worth it. So as I sit here in front of you, as I speak my mind, as I put to folding, as I put to mentalities, I put to focus in such a way that the mentality, the vibration would just focus to that point where you might become uplifted, where you might start to believe in yourself. You might start to believe in your being. You might start to believe that your journey is worth it. Let me go ahead and share what kind of focus my friend had. At a certain point, we accept everything. We accept every flaw. We accept every success. We accept that we put ourselves in the place that we are. See, when we believe in ourselves to that level, where we start to free ourselves, where we start to give ourselves the ability to be who we are within, where we start to utilize the ability inside of ourselves, where we start to utilize our being, our purpose, our journey opens itself up in front of you. Are you focused to that point where you can put your 2 feet on the ground? Or you can utilize your ability to that point where you can see that it's possible. And so, are we doing that today? Are we putting ourselves in that kind of a place where we utilize that kind of mentality, that kind of focus, that kind of purpose? And so, how do we do that? How do we put ourselves in a place where we see that point? Where we give ourselves that ability inside of who we are, where we focus to that being, where we find that part of our purpose, that part of our journey, that part of our reflection outwards. And we start to utilize the being within ourselves. How do we start to utilize the being inside of our journey? And so, can we see that kind of energy flowing? Can we create a focus where other people can become inspired by you? Can we create a focus where we see that we are worth it? That our journeys, our paths can overcome our challenges. And that's where what you listen to matters. You see, what you put into your mind, you program. What you put into your vision, you program. What you feel, what you touch, it's all part of focusing to that point. What is the point that you focus at? What is it? How do you do it? How do you become that kind of student in your life? By recognizing everything going on around you is a part of your journey, by embracing it, by putting yourself at a place inside of who you are where you utilize what you have inside. And so, when we're doing this, when we're putting ourselves to that kind of positive place where we utilize that within ourselves, where we utilize that within our focus, where we utilize that within our being, within our journey, within our very essence, that other people might just seek you out for who you are, that the universe might just bring you the position, might just bring you the promotion, might just bring you the yields within the universe. But you got to be ready for it. You got to focus to the point where you believe in yourself even when others don't. And so, how do we find that selfless person? How do we find that part inside of ourselves where we start to believe in who we are? Where we start to believe in our ability, where we start to believe in our being? You see, a lot of people stop themselves there. When we start to care for others more than ourselves, we forget about the friend inside. We forget about that person that we truly are. And so, when you focus, when you truly create a foundation, you got to let those things that aren't for you move out of the way. Are they doing that in your life today? Are they truly? Have you sat down and asked yourself that type of question? Have you started that diet? Have you started that kind of lifestyle? Have you put yourself in that place? Have you joined that gym? Have you gotten to the place inside of yourself where you believe in you? For each action, there's an equal and opposite, positive and negative forces. Which ones do you utilize today? And you see the people around you see it. The people around you recognize it. The people around you notice your own vibration. When you vibrate, when you put yourself in a place where you decide to be positive, when you start to search out positive routes, you start to overcome those challenges. You start to see those negatives move out of the way. And that is a victory in your life. Because your life is a journey. Your journey is to see what's positive, to see the abilities inside of yourself, to embrace this being, to embrace this purpose, to embrace this journey that you're on, that you're not versing somebody else, you're versing yourself, that you can believe in who you are to the point where other people can see it inside of themselves. See, we look at somebody else, we see how focused they are, then we call them a motivation. When we see them doing things that they spend the hours on, and then we see it in France, and we see, those players who played basketball or soccer, the hours, the weeks, the months, the years that they spent just so that they could have that minute in front of you. Are they not motivating you? Are you not cheering them on for their own universal being, their own ability to face off against that challenge? And do we fail sometimes? Most definitely. But possibly, just possibly, failures might be a step to success. You see, could you be failing your way towards success? Have you asked yourself that question? Have you asked yourself if you have that kind of ability? If you have that kind of focus? See, that is what I'm talking about today. That is the type of foundation where what you're writing down, you start to see. What you start to see, you start to overcome. What you start to overcome, you start to focus on. And what you start to focus on, you start to vibrate. And when you start to vibrate, the universe starts to put it in front of you and ask you, is it possible? And when you answer back as yes, it is, when you start to get that position, when you step up to that place, when other people feel it's not possible, and you start to believe in yourself, and you start to believe in your ability, and you start to believe that you can achieve your dreams, that is what I'm talking about, my friends. I'm talking about you believing in yourselves. I'm talking about you recognizing you're worth it. And it is happening. And people are seeing it. And when you see it and others see it, they start to call you a motivation. They start to give you the position. They start to give you the ability inside of who you are. They start to give you the ability to believe in yourself and to believe that you can do it, that you might be the one who can do this position, that can lift that weight for yourself. And it isn't always about everybody else. It's about you and the person that you are inside. and you facing off against your own challenges and believing in you. Now, what would you do with that? Would you go inwards? Would you spend just a minute with you hearing this message? Would you spend just a minute with you vibrating at a place where you're using what you have inside, where you're sitting down with that person, where you can do it? Because when you believe in yourself, you can. Because when you sit down and you start to use the energy inside of yourself, you will. Because when you're inside of your being, when you're inside of your focus, when you're inside of your purpose, then you utilize the skills you have inside. And when we do that, when we sit down and start to choose to want to be the student inside of ourselves, that's when we start to see the stories within. We start to re-experience. We start to be who we are on the inside. We start to utilize what we have. We start to utilize our purpose. We start to utilize our path. We start to utilize our journey. And so, are we doing that today? Are we putting ourselves to the test? Are we putting ourselves to who we are? Are we putting ourselves to a vibration that's worth it? And how do we start to do it? Are you on this page with you? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Are you able to understand yourselves? To become a student and a connection with your being in whatever skills or arts or what you have. Can you decompress your stories through it? And some of us lift weights, some of us exercise, some of us sing, some of us, the amounts of reflection outwards, of meditation that comes from within is many. Some of us do yoga. Some of us master our breaths. But where is it? Where is those knowledges being compressed inside of yourself? When you free yourself from those challenges, where is it inside of yourself? Where is it inside of your being? When do you start to sit down and study yourself, but to yet just give a few minutes a day for yourself, an hour even? See, are we doing that is the question. Are we sitting down at a point where we become that student in our lives, where we have a place of observation, where we have a place of study within, where we have a place to understand our energy, to understand our very essence, our very being? And it's within ourselves that it takes shape. It's within our challenges that we start to overcome. And working at that is a worthy cause. Working on yourself, your self-care, your self-ability, your self-study, your self-esteem, the stamina of the steam that runs you. What is it that runs you? What is it that you know about yourself that you can do every day? What is it that you know about yourself that when you do these things, you start to understand you start to overcome those challenges within you? And are we able to do that? Are we able to be within who we are? Are we able to believe in ourselves? And that really takes a student. It takes a person who's willing to just be who they are. Just be who you are inside, to sit down or to sing or to write or to, the many different skills that we have. Some of us do carpentry, others do multiple. It's within you what you know you like. But do you use that? Do you truly sit down and become honest with that part of yourself, to become with that part of your being, to be who you are on the inside, and to let that vibrate with the skills that you have outwards? And are we doing it? Are we actually spending that kind of quality times with ourselves? See, when you start to enjoy things, if you take two people to a lake, one can absolutely see the lake and be in enjoy of seeing the lake. At the same exact time, the other person could be falling apart inside. Do we take the time to enjoy the lake? Do we build that kind of a foundation inside of ourselves? Do we utilize it within our focus, within our purpose? Do we sit down at that level where the vibration vibrates outwards, where we sow the story of our life, where we sow the connections, the pieces, the values inside of ourselves, where we start to sit down and access the knowledge that you are you? And when do we center at that point? When do we allow what we absorb in out? See, this is a teacher who's inside of you, always asking the test, asking, do you know this question? Do you know how to do this? Did you learn the lesson from this story? Did you learn the lessons? Did you overcome those pains? Did you put yourself at a place inside of who you are, where you believe in you? And it's a beautiful thing when we start to do that. It's truly a beautiful thing when we start to overcome that, when we start to see that part of ourselves start to open up, when that part of our knowledge starts to become, where that part of our vibration starts to happen, where that part of our being starts to be who we are. And are we within ourselves, within our connection? See, I've often looked at surfers when they're connected with the elements. When they're connected with the water, it's almost like they've become one with the water. You see those that are within the trees and within the land, they become it. If you look at a monk and you sit next to a tree, you see the one become one with the tree. Are you becoming one with your challenges? Are you embracing your art, your artistic side of you, the one within you, the one who you truly are? Or are you ignoring that person? Are you not learning from your lessons? Are you not learning from your ability inside of yourselves? And it's on a daily that we do it. It's on a daily that we ask those kind of questions. It's on a daily that we're waiting for those kind of answers to put ourselves in that kind of a place where we can study who we are. See, it's not seeking outwards that you find. It's when you go from within out. When the universe no longer crushes you and you see that you have a path and a journey, and when you start to understand and have patience with yourself, you start to observe the things that you enjoy. So within ourselves, are we doing that? Within ourselves, are we giving that place? Are we giving ourselves that kind of permission to be who we are, to be the blessings that we are within the universe? Are we using that kind of knowledge that's absorbed within our very essence, within our very seeds, within our first knowledge of knowledge within? And a lot of people ignore that kind of energy. Why do you ignore yourselves? Study yourself, study your path, study your purpose, study the being that's within you. You will start to see that it's greater than just you. That you are on a path that started before you. You see, that's what I realized when I started to do meditation. When I started to create my own practice. When I started to create my own ability to just freestyle by myself, to sit down and to speak these speeches out, that I wanted those people to be uplifted. I wanted all those people that want to achieve their dreams to know the knowledge within is worth it. That the connections inside of yourself, when you spend that kind of time inside of who you are, that when you spend that kind of time and it isn't about somebody else, it becomes about you, and your focus and your knowledge becomes there. And truly inside of that is you. Inside of your care, your own self-care, your own self-being comes esteem as a reflection of meditation. You see, my friends, every day we do meditation. Do we like it or not? We are in it. We are on it. We are in this path. Meditation that we know as is just as simple as breath work. Do you have a simplest thing that you have? Your breath. The simplicity of being inside, of being who you are, of understanding the energy, of getting to the place where that first seed of knowledge lays inside of you. Do you remember the first time you learned something? Do you remember that first time? Can you see every time from that first time? Can you get to that place of discipline? Can you get to that place within yourselves where you start to become disciplined? Where you truly start to use the discipline within you? Where you truly start to use the path within you? Where the purpose, the journey, the connection within yourself starts to open up. And how do we start to do that? How do we start to allow ourselves that kind of place where we can see our focus and knowledge centering it within ourselves? And when we do that, when we see those people that reach the top in their skill levels and in their challenges, what we're looking at is them being used in the universe, being used by the universe, becoming friends with the universe, becoming friends with their journey, their path, their purpose. And that's most definitely when the whole self is connected, when the focus, the knowledge, and the discipline becomes centered. When the discipline within oneself becomes centered, then not only will ripples come from within you, but other people will start to become inspired. Other people will start to see their challenges are worth it. Other people will start to look at you and say, wow, if you could do it, somebody else can do it too. And if they can do it, then you can do it too. See, so simple as you being yourself opens you up to beautiful things. Simple as being yourself opens you up to overcome challenges. It opens you up to believe in you. It opens you up to overcome the things that nobody else can do for you. And we can do it. Believe me, we can overcome it. We can put ourselves on a page where we can believe in ourselves, where we can believe in our abilities, where we can gain discipline to be who we are, to achieve our dreams, to achieve our goals, to be that whole entire being. How many of you have put your whole being into something? Your whole purpose, that your vibration can vibrate outwards with such a vibrance that you are light in this universe because it's within you. And so if we focus to that point where we become focused, if we start to utilize that knowledge within ourselves, we start to call ourselves intelligent, we start to call ourselves blessings, we start to call ourselves sons and daughters of the Most High, then the blessings inside of us start to radiate outwards. Other people start to see you as a blessing. They start to see your challenges are worth it. They start to see your ability inside of yourself. They start to see that you can achieve the things that you want to and that you're worth it. And that's what it's about. Self-care, my friends. Self-understanding, self-purpose. And it's not selfish for you to be yourselves. I want you to be inspired to be who you are, to write, to sing, to draw the things that only you can do. Nobody can duplicate you. Only you can do the amazing things that you can do. Only you can be the amazing person that you are. Only you can face off against the things that go on within you. When you believe at that level, when you truly start to believe at that level, then the universe starts to see you as an inspiration. And the thing that I strive the most to be as an inspiration to you, to possibly stimulate your focus, to stimulate your knowledge, to find that place of discipline within yourself where you might just light up this world, where the people around you might believe in you, that you might believe in yourself, that you're worth it. As I close, I just want you to see that you're worth it, my friends. And that when you're disciplined, that other people see you as a reflection of inspiration. When you truly start to sit down on that level, you will find a place inside of yourself to overcome the challenges that you have. And as I close, I just want to say blessings to you all. Blessings, blessings, blessings. As always, namaste.